and care and encouragement. One of the things, joy that we're looking forward to is the opportunity to have a congregational meeting around the call of a new pastor, and I rejoice in that, even though that means my daily and weekly presence here at Harvest will be diminished. But you know how Armenians are, like Zavan. Even though he's not here, he keeps connected, and I imagine that I will be the same. I'm not going to meddle, and nothing like that, but it is one of the blessings of life together is how we can maintain connection even without physical presence. My best friend from seminary is suffering from a dread and rare disease, and we talk maybe once a year, and I visited him 3 times in the past 35 years. Well, 34. The first year, a lot of us were getting married. So we saw one another, like I stood with him at his wedding, he was there at my wedding, in the wedding party, and so forth. And I call him on Saturdays now. It's been 4 Saturdays that we talk, and it's like nothing has ever happened. We're there with one another, and I am grateful for that. We get to remember during this Holy Week, this Passion Week. We have the opportunity to gather on Thursday evening, touch base on Friday at noon, and then we're in the courtyard at 6:10 on on Easter Day, and that's one of my things I've always enjoyed is sunrise service. If Jesus could get up that early in the morning on Easter Day, I can do it too. And he had to get up from the dead. Now I know there's some Saturdays that I go to sleep thinking, I'm exhausted, I don't have another bit of energy, but Jesus really had none of that, and here he is, risen, alive in you and me. And I thank God for that. I thank God for our Roman Catholic and Orthodox siblings, because in so many of our Reformed or Protestant churches, we go from Sunday to Sunday, and you go from Palm Sunday to Easter, and you wonder what the fuss is about. You can really stumble into that idea of cheap grace, and there is nothing cheap about God's grace for us. We see the weight of that journey of faithfulness, of doing the right thing. The right thing isn't always easy, is it? Some of us have lived long enough where we know the truth of that. Doing the right thing is not always easy, but it is always right. And I'm grateful for living where I do, where the first right thing every week is showing up in the sanctuary of the Lord, and I don't have to dodge death to get here. I don't even have to dodge traffic on Sunday mornings on 99, because there's hardly any cars there, or trucks even, on Sunday morning. Now, the way home is a whole different story. So, we are at the beginning of the way that we structured the church calendar. But Jesus' relationship with Jerusalem is very complex. We see Jesus looking over Jerusalem, and Jesus weeps. We can see the pain that Jesus carries, because these are the ones who are closest to him. They know what God wants, what God wills for us. And he also sees how easy it is to get distracted or to become self-centered and see yourself and maintaining your own little comfort and safety or power or whatever it is. That's the primary thing. And Jesus shows us that that's not the primary. The primary thing is fulfilling God's will, even if it leads to the cross and death, because that is the only way to the fullness of life. And if anyone had the fullness of life, it's Jesus, resurrected from even the grave could not deny him life and breath. And that is the call to us. We need to be drawn in, engaged in this passion. So we can't go from triumph to triumph. Now, we're all sinners. We know that. And as we stand before God, your sin and my sin doesn't matter. You know, whether my sin is greater than yours or yours is greater than mine, the grace of God covers it. But there is a difference in the consequence of the sins that we suffer. And today I want you to hear the word of the Lord and to begin to see the difference and to be aware of your witness to the world are out there. Now, if you notice on my car, I don't have any fish or Jesus is the reason for the season or anything like that, because it would be a horrible witness to the love and grace and mercy of God. I'm an aggressive driver, and I know I am. I don't want people to think that, you know, followers of Jesus are the kind of driver that I am. And there are times, well, you've heard the joke of the police officer stopping someone for a traffic violation, and the person presses the button to bring the window down. You can't say roll down the window anymore, because some people in the congregation have no idea what you're talking about, rolling down the window. So the officer says, well, the person, the driver says, "Officer, I was, you know, following all the laws. I wasn't speeding or anything." And the police officer says, "But sir, you know, you have, I thought maybe the car was stolen because it's got the Jesus sticker on the back, and you're driving around like hell on wheels." There are better ways to tell the joke. I'm more of a Seinfeld kind of comedian, you know, observational, not, you know. Anyway, so here it is. From the 18th chapter of John. After Jesus had spoken these words, words of life, he went out with his disciples across the Kidron Valley to a place where there was a garden. And we're going to hear those words over and over in the coming week, on Thursday evening, on Sunday morning, twice as we celebrate the Lord's Supper. So they went to a garden which he, Jesus, and his disciples entered. Now Judas, who betrayed him, also knew the place, because Jesus often met there with his disciples. So Judas brought a detachment of soldiers together with police from the chief priests and the Pharisees. So the secular power and the religious power gathered around Jesus in that garden. And they came there with lanterns and torches and weapons. Then Jesus, knowing all that was to happen to him, came forward and asked them, "Whom are you looking for?" They answered, "Jesus of Nazareth." Jesus replied, "I am he." Judas, who betrayed him, was standing with them. When Jesus said to them, "I am he," they stepped back and fell to the ground. Again he asked them, "Whom are you looking for?" They said, "Jesus of Nazareth." Jesus answered, "I told you that I am he. So if you were looking for me, let these men go." This was to fulfill the word that he had spoken. "I did not lose a single one of those whom you had given to me." So he was looking out for the safety of his followers.
Then Simon Peter, who had a sword, drew it and struck the high priest's slave and cut off his right ear. The slave's name was Malchus. Jesus said to Peter, "Put your sword back into its sheath. Am I not to drink the cup that the Father has given me?" So the soldiers, their officer, and the Jewish police arrested Jesus and bound him. First they took him to Annas, who was the father-in-law of Caiaphas, the high priest that year. Caiaphas was the one who had advised the Jews that it was better to have one person die for the people. Simon Peter and another disciple followed Jesus. Since that disciple was known to the high priest, he went with Jesus into the courtyard of the high priest. But Peter was standing outside at the gate. So the other disciple, who was known to the high priest, went out, spoke to the woman who guarded the gate, and brought Peter in. The woman said to Peter, "You are not also one of this man's disciples, are you?" Peter said, "I am not." Now the slaves and the police had made a charcoal fire because it was cold, and they were standing around it warming themselves. Peter was also standing with them and warming himself. Then the high priest questioned Jesus about his disciples and about his teaching. Jesus answered, "I have spoken openly to the world. I have always taught in synagogues and in the temple, where all the Jews come together. I have said nothing in secret. Why do you ask me? Ask those who heard what I said to them. They know what I said." When he had said this, one of the police standing nearby struck Jesus on the face, saying, "Is that how you answer the high priest?" Jesus answered, "If I have spoken wrongly, testify to the wrong. But if I have spoken rightly, why do you strike me?" Then Annas sent him bound to Caiaphas, the high priest. Now Peter was standing, warming himself. They asked him, "Are you not also one of his disciples? You are not also one of his disciples, are you?" He denied it. "I am not." One of the slaves of the high priest, a relative of the man whose ear Peter had cut off, asked, "Did I not see you in the garden with him?" Again Peter denied it. At that moment the cock crowed. So Peter denies Jesus 3 times. As Jesus had said, Judas betrays Jesus once. There is a difference between Judas and Peter's sin. The consequences differ by degree. My concern is that many times the followers of Jesus kill the one thing that matters, their testimony, their witness, by how they go about following Jesus in this world. At the end of all of this, Judas ends up dead. Judas was done waiting for Jesus to work out the great plan of relieving the oppression of the Roman Empire and restoring the Jewish people to the place where they ought to be, at least in charge of their own lives, if not some huge empire. Maybe he figured the way to get Jesus to act was to bring a sword to his neck, and Jesus said, "That's it," and call out the angels from heaven, or whatever Jesus was going to do to overthrow the empire. Judas ends up dead by his own hand. Peter denies Jesus 3 times. I don't know. He didn't have a fish magnet on the back of his car. He wasn't wearing a cross around his neck. Well, that's not me. You've mistaken me, my doppelganger. There's a lot of people that look like me. And, truth be told, in that part of the world, there's a lot of people who look like Peter. You know, olive skin, you know, dark hair, probably a full beard. You know, there's a lot of people that, it's almost like a beard is almost like wearing a mask. You know, they all look alike, those Jewish guys wandering around in Jerusalem late at night. No, it wasn't me. Peter must have felt horrible when he heard the cock crow. But Peter was the rock on which the church is built. God was and is not done with us yet. God is not done with Peter. God is not done with the church. God is not done with me. God is not done with you. God is not done with your children or your grandchildren. I don't know how many grandmothers I sit with. They say, oh, my children, they don't take their kids to church. And I say, you know, God is not done with them yet. Nor is God done with you yet. To me, this old bag of bones, it's amazing what God can do with even a bag of bones like this. Just think of the influence you can have in that cold, cruel world out there. Imagine if you extend kindness. Imagine if you smile. Imagine if you go and sit by the one who is sitting alone. Imagine. This is a challenging text because we're gathered here in Christ's name. We are Christians. See, Judas believed that Jesus had the power to do something. And he was going to bring that power to bear because he was tired of waiting. Do we ever get like that? Impatient with God's plan for our lives? I don't know about you, but I struggle with patience on a daily basis. I want to get to Easter. I don't want to walk up that hill to Calvary. I want the resurrection right now. Yeah, let's skip the grave. Let's all just rise again. You know, there's a thread that runs through a part of the church where we want the second coming before we die because nobody wants to die, but we all want to go to heaven. And one of the ways to do that is that the second coming happens while I'm here, still living and breathing. I can go from this life to the next life without having to pass through that dark moment. But one of the things that happens if we do follow Jesus faithfully, which means that we love well, we pass through the valley of the shadow of death over and over again. Because we walk with people, parents, spouse, friend, as they pass through a difficult time, and you're walking with them. And the pain and grief is shared. And there is joy, not happiness, not good times, but joy in sharing in that life together. Now, Peter missed out on some stuff here. And Peter could have been marginalized by his sin. But the grace of God embodied in Jesus Christ is perfect. Jesus doesn't call Peter back once. The story continues in John. After the resurrection, they're out fishing, they come in, they have breakfast together that Jesus had prepared. And Jesus says to Peter, Peter, do you love me? And Peter says, yes, I do. And Jesus asks 3 times. Because Peter had the opportunity 3 times. And he did not claim love for Jesus, or knowledge for Jesus, or any connection to Jesus. So Jesus offers him the opportunity to be fully restored. And here we sit as Christians. And there's moments this week, not only while driving the car, there are moments this week where I have denied being God's own in Jesus Christ.
God, that his mercy is far greater than my sin, that his grace is far greater than my sin, so I can do the incredible thing of standing up in his pulpit and proclaiming the good news that there is life in Jesus. There is life in Jesus. Follow him, and I'll walk with you. We might get off track every now and then, but God is great. And God is the good shepherd. I work for the good shepherd. And so do you. And that good shepherd will always call us back. God is not done yet with Harvest Church. I have testimony to that. There was a time that I had dropped the church. And God got a hold of me. And I was wise enough to respond to God's call. I mean, I knew what I was looking at if I didn't respond faithfully to a life of misery, full of all sorts of stuff, but I knew that stuff would not fulfill me. My oldest child was an atheist for a while, and now he's a member of Third Presbyterian Church in Rochester. And his son, there he is, my grandson, just a couple of weeks away of getting my fill. But he watches and worships at Third Presbyterian Church every Sunday morning. He creates a comfortable space for himself and sits there and participates in worship. And his job is to prepare, he's the Susie of the Gagosian family in Rochester. He prepares the elements for communion on Communion Sunday. And the funny thing is, he's a lot like his grandpa. He makes 2 extra portions for himself. And my daughter was an atheist, angry at God. But she's in seminary now, because God isn't done yet. People used to ask my father, your son doesn't come to church anymore. My dad says it's okay. God isn't done with him yet. I got the chance to say the same thing about my children. And you know, the most wonderful thing, because I've been at Harvest long enough now, that I realize that this isn't the perfect church. But God isn't done with us yet. God is going to do something great and wonderful. And the challenge today is to be neither Judas nor Peter. Stand up with confidence and with courage and say, I am a follower of Jesus. And then look like it. When someone comes in need, open your hand and offer them what they have. Whether the need is to have someone be their friend, even though they're very hard to befriend because of the way they smell or because